Because I about to say I have, especially when going with the topic of the day and just kind of going with what I want to talk about and just getting out there with broader things to talk about. I started buying my first gun and looking into buying a gun or anything, especially living out of the house, being on my own and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Probably I was 22, 21, 22 when I started actually looking, because especially being in Texas or in America, it needed 21 for a handgun, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think so.
is it true?
And that's the thing. I'm not the most educated person on the topic either.
Mm. And you were about to say the crazy thing about, in your perspective, the crazy thing about just a gun as a weapon in general.
I just feel like it's a little absurd. Like, the ability to take something's life that easily with the pull of a finger. Like, when you really think about it, it's pretty wacko, right? It's a little insane. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense. What I believe, and this is just me, is that, like, it's okay to have guns. People probably should have guns. I, especially now that since Rosemary's been born, been thinking about it a lot more, because I do want one. I mainly just want one for my home, though. I don't really feel the need when I go out into public to be armed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I'm walking around our city, I don't feel like I'm in danger like that. It feels pretty safe, honestly.
And especially for, like you said, at home, especially because you have a family now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, and I guess in my perspective, because it's been almost a year that we've had that perspective change for each of us. Now that you have a family, and then I'm still, doing, like I'm still single, so it's not as much of a for me. It's not as pressing,
Yeah. And
yeah, 21 years old. I got it. Yeah, 21 years old for handguns. 18 to buy a long gun.
okay. But I'm not the most educated on the topic.
Mm.
I've shot guns before. I haven't been in a long time. I want to have one at the house. And I've been hunting once, and I enjoyed it. I like the idea of going out there and getting some food for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything costs so much money, though.
That's a lot of money. Yes, it's a slippery slope. It's definitely a slippery slope, especially because even just looking, like as someone who's shotgun, never owned a gun, but someone who like you who shot guns, never really been hunting. I'm outdoors to go fishing, but never really been hunting, and so I guess for me it was never. That I grew up around. My dad was an Army guy though, and so my dad had guns. You know what I mean? He showed me how to use it, like early on.
Right.
He bought me Nerf guns and stuff like that because he knew. I mean, growing up where he grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, he knows how dangerous guns are. You know what I'm saying? Especially being in the Army.
Yeah.
So he even said it's probably something, especially having kids. He said as having a boy, from the reason he wanted to show me so early is that he said as boys, if you don't show him, he's gonna make one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sure enough, the first things we made on the playground was what? Slingshots, bow and arrows, something to,
Yeah. Throwing rocks.
Something. Something projectile.
Yeah. Dad sounds like a wise man.
Yeah. Been through a lot. So
my dad showed me, he kept guns at the house, but he it was very much like we don't fuck with the guns. They're not toys. That's like the kind of the sentiment at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he showed them to me. The times that I've been shooting for the most part were pretty much all with him because he wanted us to understand them. But like if he wasn't in the house, anytime my friends came over, we were never going to mess with his guns. But anytime my friends came over at all, he would just be like, "Yeah, I'll get you guys a pizza. By the way, don't fuck with my guns," and walk out. And like so that has always been kind of instilled in me, and I guess that's why I haven't really made the move to get one of my own yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just hadn't made the shift from my old perspective
Mm-hmm.
to closer to his perspective of now I have Rosemary and Sarime and my family, and as much as I don't feel super threatened on a daily basis, I want to have the capability to defend us, and I want Sarime to have that capability also, and I want them to understand those things and be shown those things. But when the kind of theme that we were talking about earlier with life not being linear, when you think about how complex and deep and intricate a human life is, and any kind of life is, and like the story that is accompanied with every single one of those lives, the ability to just snuff that out by pointing your hand and pulling your finger, it's really powerful. And so they're not toys. And so I don't know if I would, at the present moment in time, I don't know if you'd find me personally walking around in public strapped.
Yeah.
Like if I'm just going to HEB, I wouldn't be surprised if HEB has like a secret military that they're just ready to enact if anybody goes haywire in there anyways.
I don't know, actually. I think that, to be honest, I think that there's so many people, especially in Texas. I don't think there's been something like on that mass scale at the grocery store in Texas, has there?
Like HEB?
Or like any kind of grocery store, like in Texas wise. I mean, like there was the one in Houston at the school, like, and then of course, just like a year ago, Uvalde. Yes, what happened in Uvalde, and so, but in a public setting like that in Texas, I can't think of something that's happened like that, And I think part of me thinks is that there's too many people in Texas who have that on them, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
At any given time,
Right.
Especially if we just walk in public, But I think to go along with that, I think that's just the idea of where we're from too. You know what I'm saying? Is that you don't mess with Texas,
You
And
don't.
Texas is guns.
Texas has guns.
Texas is guns.
And
Basically.
one of the biggest things about Texas, that's a really old part of the identity in Texas, is minding your own fucking business. And I feel like that and caring, they go well together, Because it's like, I don't give a shit if that guy's got a gun. I got a gun too, right? Or it's just not my food, not my kitchen.
Basically. And really the only ever time, it's only ever something you go to for a last resort. And you only ever pull it if you're going to use it.
If you're going to use it.
And that's what my dad taught me. And so I wish everybody, I said, I can't keep wishing, but like if everyone abided by that, it'd be a lot easier. But stuff happens,
Stuff happens.
I don't think you were working. We were working together when I had an incident with someone I knew had taken their life with a gun, and this is probably about probably 2 months before we started, a couple months before we started working together in 2022.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. And that was when I was looking to actually purchase my own gun heavily at that time. This was a friend that was actually not even. That's the thing. I'll go ahead and say I'm more of an acquaintance, but I say friend because we didn't know each other well. But I asked myself, even at that day, I was like, it was crazy how even though I didn't know someone that well, that them passing could hit me like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's why I can kind of draw that distinction, I guess. But beside the point, after that, I couldn't look at guns anymore. You know, because it was just like even like going online and looking at it and seeing the actual weapon. You know, it's like just it really kind of messed up my psyche on that for a little bit. I think I've grown out of it more in the sense of things just happen. You know what I mean? And sometimes there's a lot of things we can't control, but also it's something like I said, it's just nothing to play with. You know?
Yeah.
And I guess like that's why I haven't made that jump either, because it's I don't want to say it's necessarily a mature jump, but it's a serious jump. You know?
Yes, it is.
You know, regardless of the way you spin it. You know, whether or not you're just going out to protect yourself on a daily basis or protecting your family at home, it's a serious jump for anybody. You know? I think sometimes, I don't think there's anything wrong. Like same way with you, I don't think there's anything wrong with guns, but I think sometimes just where we are in time and where we are as a people, sometimes the responsibility gets forgotten.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Doesn't get taken as seriously. We get a little comfortable.
I'll say like to switch out the words, not maturity but responsibility. You know what I'm saying? And you can teach. You can teach that responsibility to people at a young, like I said, at a young age. You know, hence both of us. So,
and if we can get like heavy. We get heavy. I think I was 18 because I was living with my friend Shane at the time, and it was the first time that I had lost a friend. Like, and it was same kind of deal. We weren't the closest friends. We had been really close for when we were in 6th grade. We rode the bus together. And I ended up moving that year to a different school. Never really reconnected with him. And he was just kind of a mutual after that. But when we were 18, he went missing. And a few days later, they found him. And I don't even really know what happened. I think what that is, like what that feeling is, you know, even though like that wasn't somebody, you know, it's not like that was my best fucking friend. You know, but I still miss him, even though I might have never seen him again anyways. And I think part of that is it's just the tragedy of it all. Mm-hmm. And we lose our innocence in that. Like we mature with that at the same time.
Yeah.
And we start to take on the responsibility of like, that's one of us that didn't make it. You know, that's us. That's our generation. Mm-hmm. Those are our peers. And like I have faith in us. Sometimes.
And see, like, I guess for my dad's generation, like, he can tell you, like, he said, a lot of friends I had back in high school, either if they're not doing good, they're either dead or in jail. You know?
Yeah. My dad's got, like, 2 friends.
Yeah.
Like, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think that the way I've been kind of going, like I said, especially like I said, life not being linear, I say that in the sense of, you know, we always view things in the light of either positive or negative by how it affects us or helps us, hurts us, and then we move on from where we got, you know, from where we are. And I guess I've seen, you know, because like after just even having this conversation, I think back how many times I've seen people just, I don't want to just say like just in an insensitive way, but see people pass on or from whether it was sometimes in elementary school, you know, from kids, some teachers, you know, even high school. I remember even freshman year of college, a classmate in English. One day they were sitting in the chair. The next day and the rest of the year they weren't, and they came in and just kind of dumped on us. Yeah, they took their life last night, or yeah, and then just went on like that, And it's kind of like oh, how do we go in? Do we really have to go to class today? Like you just come into class and we just go off of that, And so, and I guess like not in a way to be insensitive, but I guess it's just kind of a way of looking at it as if it's something that's gonna happen to all of us, and something but not to dwell on it.
Not to dwell on it.
That's the biggest thing is that like
it's the mortal fact of life.
And sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Sometimes
not even sometimes. A lot of times, all the time. I guess ignorance, good ignorance. How do I say good ignorance? But in a way of just doing what you know to do in an ignorant way. You know what I'm saying? Like you're ignorant to everything else that's not aligned with what you need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Letting go of the bullshit.
Basically. I've been saying that a lot the past like 5 years. Now I think about it. Above the bullshit, letting go of the bullshit, getting through the bullshit. I think maybe if you stop thinking of it like just like it really kind of sometimes just life, It is some bullshit sometimes, but I mean like
bad things happen to good people, but like good things happen to good people. I don't know. I always think about it's so cliche to say, but like this too shall pass. Right? Literally all of it, like because all we ever have is right now. Right, we have our memories, and we can try and imagine the future. But, like, all we ever experience is right now. And, like, right now, it's me and you in this room talking. And then I'm imagining in the future that it'll be right now is me driving home, right? But it's only ever right now. And I kind of don't remember how I got here.
Hey, somehow we got here, and we're here now.
We're here right now.
Now, you were saying about how I said something to ponder on for you was life is not linear. And then you said something you've been pondering on for me was that your mind is not yourself. And it's crazy. I woke up this morning. Have you heard of David Goggins?
I have.
Yeah, it was a podcast that he was on, and that was playing was on TV when I woke up. And I was like, he was just kind of like, I guess what he was saying was exactly what was going on with what you were thinking and what I was thinking in kind of a synergetic way. But he calls that voice in your head the governor. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And how to get through all those voices in your head because like you're not your mind. Your mind's gonna play tricks on you all the time.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. They really have a song like "Mind Playing Tricks on Me." Yeah.
There's a book. It's called The Power of Now. That's why I was talking about all that stuff about now. It's by a guy, he's an Irish guy, I think. And his name's Eckhart Tolle. But he talks about not identifying with the thoughts in your head. Like not allowing those voices in your head to convince you that they are you. Because that's not, like, the mind is an instrument that we have. It's a part of us. It's a really good tool. But sometimes the tool kind of usurps its place. And because it has its own motivations. And not identifying with the thoughts in your head and kind of allowing yourself to watch your own mind. And the tricks that it tries to play on you. And by doing that, by kind of taking that step back, and not putting your identity with your mind, it kind of allows you to like see another level of that consciousness.
I feel exactly what you just said when I meditate. I do it actually good. I don't meditate as much as I should, I'll be honest. But when I feel that when it's just like you're sitting there I think especially when I was on the way to, I went on a little vacation. You're all good. No, you're good. No, I went on a little vacation to, yeah, you got it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Vacation to Austin, and I was sitting by a waterfall, and the waterfall sounded so nice. And I sat there and just thought for a while, and just noticed every thought as it passed in my head. You know, just like whether it was a positive or negative thought. I didn't think anything of them. You know what I'm saying? They just passed through. There's thoughts.
Right. No
You know?
judgment.
Exactly. You know, and I think that. See, I think it's the same way when I'm like, when we're having a good time, when we're doing what we do. You know what I'm saying? And before I meditate, it's the same. I get that same kind of calmness from,
Like the peace.
you know, that same kind of just like that easiness. I guess the difference is that I'm still like wide awake. You know what I'm saying? And it's like wide awake to all the thoughts, and the thoughts are like a little more pronounced. You know how you feel everything a little bit better. You know.
Yeah, I always I always start to move a little bit. I
Mhm.
get poppy.
Exactly. And so I think when I meditate, it's like, I know when I meditate, even feel it. It's just like how I feel after it, how I feel during. Getting to that point, when you're thinking too much about it, you're stuck, you know. And you keep going. I'm trying to meditate. I've asked people, do you try to meditate? You know what I'm saying? And they said I try, and I can't. I'm like, even then, the fact that I can't. You know what I'm saying? You're like, you're trying too hard already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I've always wanted to ask you, because when I first met you, we don't get to work together very much anymore. But we
Yeah.
got to work together for like 2 or 3 months pretty consistently. And
Lovely.
it came up pretty soon in conversation that you like to meditate. And I noticed that you were a mindful and a spiritual person. I've always wanted to kind of ask you, like, what set you down that path. I don't know if you've talked about that before on here, but I've always been really curious about it.
See, and that's the biggest thing I've been learning. I've gone through these cycles. You'll notice on my podcast, especially I have a pattern. You'll know, like I won't say it on the podcast, but go through all my podcasts and you'll notice the pattern of what I do and how I do it. And I noticed I grew up in a religious household, you know. And that's something that's never really gotten away from me. It's something I've gotten away from at times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's never really gotten away from me. And so, and I think in that sense that's kind of sent me down that path. My dad ended up showing me this thing called The Secret on Netflix, I believe. And like the law of attraction, right? It's like talking about that. And I think the biggest thing is that I never ever necessarily took anything as like this is it, you know what I'm saying? Or as like a hardcore. Maybe a couple things, but I always kept an open mind to anything, you know, unless it was just complete BS. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I've always kind of had a kind of spirituality to me, and I think it's been more pronounced in the past couple of years. Just after the pandemic, you grow up a lot, and life teaches you a lot, and so. But I think that I've always just pondered. I've always asked why a lot, you know.
Questions.
I've always questioned a lot, and
Yes.
I've been getting out of it lately. You know, I think I've like been like kind of like a third time's the charm kind of thing, and it's like stop pondering so much and just go with anything. You know what I'm saying? I've always been a thinker, just thinking, and part of being a creator as well is that a lot of us are overthinkers.
perfectionists.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get stuck. There's definitely some value when you gotta like shut it off and take some action.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, a lot of the times, I think that there's those big kind of questions that you just ponder, right? And I have been wondering, I wonder if Caleb's gonna ask me any questions or like give me anything he wants to talk about. And then you just gave me like one really good thing to ponder. You said, ponder this. Life is not linear. And I've been thinking about that shit ever since. And a lot of the times I think that there's more value in just asking the questions than actually getting a definitive answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I understand, can kind of relate to not ever fully committing to like, this is it. This is the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was honestly a relief when I learned that a lot of people felt the same way, not just about like religion, but life. Like, everybody's just figuring it out every day, just kind of making it up as they go, doing their best. And it's not like the very first person who ever lived was like, here's how you person, I have the right way to do it. And we're all chasing that one right way to do it. Like, we're all just making it up, flying by the seat of our pants a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of dope when I look around. Like you have done all of this, just doing you. And like, this is awesome.
And see, like, when you say like the way like that, I always go back to what I know from childhood, Jesus Christ, you know, as the way. And I guess this is where I've been like nervous, 'cause I think like a lot of my ideas will either confuse or get me in trouble, confuse people, because I feel like a lot of times I'm misunderstood and I haven't really been able to kind of speak on just purely what I think, you know? Yeah. Not that I'm saying anything is definitive. Everything I kind of say, I've been realizing is kind of a question, you know? And a lot of times the stuff I say is to myself as well. And I guess the biggest thing I've always wondered is like, if God wanted me to be like Jesus, wouldn't he have just made me Jesus? I guess in the sense of, I can't do what Jesus did, you know? I guess like from like purely like a walking on water, like Jesus could do anything. You know, he walked on water. I believe Jesus was a river.
He was magical. He was magical.
Mm-hmm.
It's look, I might piss some people off because I get what you mean, and I'm just trying to say what I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this stuff I respect other people's beliefs about it. I didn't grow up in a super religious household. Now, the core idea of Christianity was still present, for sure, especially from like my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, but my parents never really made me go to church. I went to church like 3 or 4 times with my great grandma, and it was, you know, I don't remember very much of it. I was pretty young, but you grow up here in Texas, like I still, you know, have read parts of the Bible and still have been very exposed to it just from growing up here. And I don't really have like anything against Christianity. I don't feel like it is the way for me necessarily, but I still find a lot of value in a lot of the teachings there. And I feel like that should be okay. Like, I feel like it should be okay to learn from lots of different people's beliefs and then to be able to choose for myself what I feel like works for me and what I believe. And I feel like there's a lot of good stuff in Christianity, but then there's also a lot of stuff that I just personally don't want to agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, like, Jesus, there's so much value in that story. There's so much value in his teachings. And But I can't. I don't think I could do that either. I don't think I could live like.
And I guess my biggest thing too is that like, I guess my perception of Jesus is just different. Not that I don't believe in Jesus at all. I just don't see him the same way as everyone else. You know, I'm like, cause I'm thinking just in society, if Jesus turned over all those tables in the temple like he did back then, right now, would we think he's Jesus like? Would we call that Jesus like? You know, we would say you're not being like Jesus. Jesus turned the tables over for a reason. You know, over corruption. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But still, people. I won't generalize people like that. But in the sense that I guess I ask myself, I'm like, if Jesus were to come back today and proclaim himself to be Jesus, the way, the truth, and the light, would people really believe him? Especially with the way with the perspective I'll say not society, but just overall habitus. Because that's one thing I also talk about. There's a thing called habitus, which is it's like a creative, collective perspective of a society. You know what I'm saying? And so habitus. Yeah, hold on, let me make sure I'm getting the right word. HAB, just habitus. So yeah, HABITUS. A person's general constitution, especially physical build, or the way a person or particular background perceives and reacts to the world, depending on and the way it's used. That depending on their position in a given social field, they develop a certain habitus typical of their position. So, or used in a let's see. Habitus is a sociological term that refers to people's embodied traits and behaviors. So explanation, according to the theory of habitus, we act a certain way because of our lived experience, not solely by the force of external social structures. We speak, think, and act how we do, not because of clear rules or punishment, but because we slowly develop cultural competency through socialization.
And so it kind of, you develop that like cultural zeitgeist.
Exactly.
That people of a culture share together. That kind of, the thing that really unites you all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why imagery and stuff is so important, you know, of like, because they have an image of Jesus Christ, but do you really think he's coming back looking like that?
Well, and then there's all the debate about which image we talk about, and if that's even what, he really looked like. Because, the standard Leonardo da Vinci, Jesus, is... I might make some people mad. I'm not trying to. I don't know who your target audience is. But
honestly, bro,
Jesus was not a white man.
Honestly,
Jesus was not a white man.
I'm learning how to let go and just kind of say what I need to say, because I'm not saying anything that's trying to hurt or harm. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
I'm not trying to curse on anything. I'm just purely speaking on how I see the world. You know. Right. And how I've grown through my own experiences, through the own things that I've been taught, I've learned, seen, of how it just culminates. You know what I'm saying?
And the evidence that I bring to the table is historical.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about when this would have taken place in the region that it took place, he would not have been a white man, and that's okay. That other depiction of him by Da Vinci is, it's a beautiful painting, but it's, I had a customer, my hair was real long, and I had the beard.
Mm-hmm.
She was like mid-sentence when she walked in to get some vapes, and she looked up to me and she was like, "Oh, you look like Jesus." And then she goes, "Well, white Jesus." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Thank you." And I cut my hair not too long after that.
Mm-hmm. I can't look like it sounds so.
I just got tired of hearing it, dude.
White Jesus.
Yeah, I just got tired of hearing it. I had a beard and long brown hair. And
you must be Jesus.
I must be Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's a bad dude, but I don't know if I'd be rolling up with him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think Jesus necessarily would roll up with us, but
Probably not.
but I think at the same time, I think at the same time, in that same sentence, what you're talking about, I said if Jesus, I said it really when, because Jesus will come back. That's my biggest question: is that when Jesus comes back, will anybody? Is it the image of Jesus? We don't know. You know what I'm saying? And how many people will really fall into the knees of of who he is when he is? You know?
Yeah.
Is it a thing of? Maybe it's something I should stop pondering and just go through my life until it happens. But would it be a thing of people would see and know? But I think a lot of people see and know and still don't do. You know, I fall into that habit a lot too. You know,
Yeah.
and so, and again, it goes back to just individually. You know what I'm saying? And like, I guess leaning in on who you are as an individual and your individual walk with God and Christ. You know,
Yes.
if you have a relationship,
And I do think that as a human being, you have to have some kind of relationship with what is larger than yourself. With what is larger than yourself. Because ultimately, we are finite. And we have to have some kind of relationship and understanding with the infinite. Or, we're mortal, and we have to have some kind of relationship and understanding with God or Christ or whatever that relationship, whatever that form takes. And I think lots of people have very different relationships, even, with the same belief system or the same, religion. But I do think that it's important to ask the questions, to have that relationship. And I don't even, because I just feel like it's so, I don't think that in our lifetimes we are ever going to be blessed with definitive answers. If they ever come, it'll be after we're dead. And that's an if. For me, at least personally, I don't know if that's a definitive I'll ever get the real cosmic answers. And that is not so much a complaint as it is honestly a relief when I think about it. Ignorance is bliss a little bit. It would probably break me if I tried to understand the true
complexity
nature
of why we're here.
of why we're here.
You know,
But I'm fucking here.
exactly.
And so at the end of the day, I'm going to live it up.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this today. I was like, I think we were in an age where everything's so intellectual, and we're at this age where we intellectualize our experience so much, because we can almost see stuff I can literally, like, even like I'll show you right now, like we can literally see ourselves from a third person perspective. You feel me?
Yep.
So like, I think we can intellectualize ourselves so much, especially now we have all these screens around us, giving us a true reflection.
It's backwards.
Exactly. Or wait, if it's backwards, is it a reflection?
Yeah, I think it's a reflection.
Okay, yeah. That's how it was in math, right?
God knows.
It was translation, reflection, and how to translate something across, reflect something across, so you flip it, and then
rotate.
Rotate, yes.
Rotate.
Across an axis. That's why math and science are so similar to me. And I just noticed all these different, like, lines of... It's just a string of continuity between all the subjects. I'm like, wait a minute. So basically we live on this plain field where things happen, okay? We're math. We're 1 + 1 = a 2-man podcast, okay? Basic
Right.
math of this plane. We do what we do. We write it down. We talk about it. And then it gets listened to and recorded as history. And that's basically all 4 of your subjects you get in school. The science of what we're doing, why we're doing it, why we're here, the numbers of how it all got here, because all the numbers add up to how we're here. And then it gets recorded, and then people listen to it or read it back, and it's history. And that's basically what you learn in school. And just life is just basically that cycle of your own school, I guess.
Right.
Your own schooling.
At some point, you have to take responsibility for your own education. in whatever form it may be.
Your own life, your own life education for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm.
And let me ask you this: when was the last time when we were in school, and you went to CSHS, right?
Yes.
So, what was the last time in school you felt like you genuinely learned something new from school?
Talking like grade school.
Yeah, like
Okay.
not up to college. I know
Okay.
college is a different beast.
Yeah, college. I learned so much stuff in college. With grade school, always shout out Coach O's class, environmental systems, because it was much more. It's probably my favorite science out of all of them, because I never really understood chemistry and biology was easy, in a sense of system. I can understand a system of how an ecosystem works, and I love animals too. So like, I love watching Animal Planet. So I guess with that, I can understand systems. With environmental systems, it was a mix of not only biology, but then it comes back to the environment and how like you go from weather to also even how we work as a town or as a city, or as a large scale country in those type of systems. So it's like you learn like not only like it was a mix of everything, honestly, a mix of not only macro and micro levels of systems and economics, but also just demographics and everything. And that's why it was one of my favorite. That's why I still remember Coach O taught us that class.
Sounds really interesting, actually. What grade was that?
This was senior year.
Senior year?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was, people used to take it as a blow off class, but if you actually, Coach O didn't let you blow it off, first of all. And then Coach O was probably one of the most revered teachers we had. I had a lot of teachers I could say I revered, teachers and coaches. But I would say that taking that class, he'd always make us watch we watch a TED Talk before as well, before class started. And we'd always have to write down what we learned from the TED Talk or something, or kind of questions we could ask from the TED Talk. And so he always encouraged us to think more.
Right, you got to engage with it.
And he always gave us he had a different quote every day on the board. He's also a track coach, so he's all about that kind of stuff.
Man.
So, my bad. The last thing I was going to say, I think the last big thing I learned from that class, I think was the speed of light, 186,000 kilometers per second.
Yeah, per second. That shit is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Some coaches really had that ability to just like rope you in.
Mm-hmm.
Cut the shit.
Especially, I think, same way with what we do and where we work, is it's easier to teach someone something that I already love.
Yes.
It's something I already know about, something I already do. It's way easier to get that across to someone in an effective way.
Yes, because it's genuine.
Mm-hmm.
We have genuine interest. It's always fun when we get to talk about the cool stuff all day long.
Yeah.
A big part of it's presentation too.
Mm.
I think good teachers have a really good presentation.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, the last few years, I just didn't feel challenged. Like,
You say like up till now? Or like
when I was in school.
Okay.
When I was in school, I should say. The last couple of years of high school, I really didn't feel challenged. I felt like the system was kind of being redundant. Like, at least, and I went to Bryan High. This was like 2018, 2019.
Okay.
And the last class I had where I like genuinely learned something was junior year. AP US History. Mr. Cryer. After that, and part of it was me not, understanding the privilege that I had to be going to school. You think you want to be an adult, you think you want to be out in the world, and then you fucking get out here and you're like, damn,
I want to go back to school.
I wish they feed me for free again.
Bro,
Shit.
You don't have to think about what you're gonna do next because when the bell rings, you're on your own schedule. You're on a certain schedule.
You're on a certain schedule. You had a bunch of excuses to go do stuff. You know, you go play sports and shit. But I didn't feel like I was like academically being challenged very hard or being taught a whole lot of new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just worry a little bit. I'm like, have you heard about, have you seen the state of teachers lately?
Yes.
Okay.
So with the wedding I went to yesterday, they both teach.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I'm sure you've heard all about it.
Oh my God. Like even then, I was while I was took a trip to Austin. I went to the Capitol building the other day. Right. I went to the library, and the library had a book called The State of Education in 2010, and it had projections for the next 10 years of education within like just Texas, just from a purely demographic, economic, and test score, reading level score, behavioral, and factoring in a pandemic and technology that we have now was not factored in at all. Especially just the overall of just where we are at this time in general. Especially with social media and
fucking COVID.
Yeah, just a lot of things are way different than what was expected. You know, again, like what are expectations? You know what I mean? Like, I think now, I just from what I've heard, it's bad.
It's pretty bad.
You know,
my mom's a teacher.
How does she? What does she have to say about it?
She's stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Man, she's hella stressed.
What does
all
she,
the time.
So what does she teach?
She teaches English.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't out her, but she teaches English at one of the high schools somewhere in the world. I think freshman, something like that. And it's the behavior a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe there's even such a thing as a bad kid. Like, it's not their fault if adults in their life haven't taken the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But it's concerning because eventually they're going to become adults. And then it still won't be their fault, but it's going to be their responsibility. And there's just a lot of things that school never prepared me for.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get my money up. Dude, I've been trying to get my finances straight. And learning about credit scores and interest rates and mortgages and property taxes. And there's all this shit that is really like dense and difficult to kind of comprehend that the public education system does not educate you on. And I think that's fucking downright criminal, honestly. Like, credit scores in particular are just a really good example of some shit that's like really obtuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves a lot of percentages and math and stuff that can kind of seem counterintuitive. That like if you want that information, you have to go looking for it. You have to, these days, go to YouTube, look up a 5 to 10 minute video about what makes a good credit score. You can do it.
Information's at your hands.
The information's at your hands. So why aren't we just giving it to the kids in the classroom?
I think I'll say that the thing I learned about credit cards in high school was from an economics class. Coach Frazier, shout out to Coach Frazier. The one thing he said about credit cards, you don't need one. Until he said the way I live my life, he said the only thing I've had to take payments on is my house. You know, he said now other teachers. He said, other people, like for instance, I bought my truck cash, right? He said, someone else, they lease their car. We have the same job. They live a comfortable life. I live a comfortable life. It's cool. Me personally, I don't need a credit card. You know? He said, because mainly he said when I went to school, he said, I was that stupid kid who got hooked into a credit card and blew all my shit. You know?
Yep.
And so he said, I just from experience and knowing what I went through, He said, "I don't want you to go through the same things." He said, "Because there are like horror stories out there about like people who couldn't pay their credit cards and
Oh, I believe it, dude.
you know,
The catch is that eventually you need a good credit score
for
If-
something."
for if you want to buy a house and not pay cash,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be really hard to do. I mean, most of the houses around here about probably average 260, 270.
The house,
And- Uh,
housing market.
and that's probably a solid $120,000 below the national average. Like most of the people like us in the working class, we're not going to be able to go buy a house cash for the next 20 to 25 years.
Doing what I'm doing right now. No.
Yeah, me neither, dude.
I will say though, there are a lot of different. If you look into it, there are a lot of different grants you can get, especially once you're consider like actually living on your own dime, like I can think like 26, 25, 26, especially like hitting this age. There's a lot of things you can get that just for help overall. Oh yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even I think the city of Bryan, College Station might have one too, but the city of Bryan even has like a down payment and closing cost assistance program.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these programs exist. What I've seen is like you can also get these loans through the federal government. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can apply for them, and they'll help you get a lower interest rate, essentially, because it'll be through and backed by the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of get you get one chance, first-time home buyers kind of thing. Because I guess at one point, the government did want us to, be able to buy houses and live in houses of our own. And that's a big goal for me over the next few years, is trying to get a home somewhere.
I would say that's not necessarily that the government doesn't want that necessarily. I think there's a lot of outside excess costs that go into other things that pile in and then come out in other ways. So like the housing market, for example, is so inflated because everything's inflated in general. You know what I'm saying? But I think that I looked it up too. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a money driven society. Not money driven, but the flow of money is big.
It's really big. We're a spending economy.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that people aren't spending on things for houses, on household goods. People spend on, there's so much excess nowadays. You know what I mean? And I say excess, even small ways of me having an iPhone versus having a flip phone. You know what I'm saying? Small little things, that we're all accustomed to, that we all really don't even question that much, but it's like, if we wanted to go back to the way things were, there's certain things we had to do. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have Instagram anymore. I mean, you'd have to go on the computer. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have easy access to Google in your pocket anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It'd be a lot. You have to push the button 3 times when you're, or how many letters.
Texting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
You know?
remember.
I'd much rather prefer a BlackBerry for that case. But, no, I think that like and this is something I grew out of too, especially once because money was always something that even then something I just never really had to. I find $100 bills on the ground, like
Wish I had that talent.
I don't find, but I mean, just it's happened before. When it's like, oh shit, it was HEB too. So I mean, like your boy it was eating good that night. But I would say that I lost where I was going with that.
Well, and I see what you mean by it. Kind of things do tend to kind of sort themselves out.
Yes,
Like especially if you keep at it, and if you can find the right information too, it gets easier. The hard part for me, honestly, is not just spending money on bullshit, but then it's also like when we as a society spend less money overall, it is bad for the economy. And it's like weird, and I don't have to necessarily understand how, but it's weird how it's like I want to keep my money. I want to grow my money, right? I want to save it.
Mm.
But if I save it for too long, inflation might outpace it. And then it's like that $10,000. If I would have spent each one of those dollars whenever I had it, it would have been like 12,000 or 13,000.
Mm.
And so, well, I guess where I've been thinking about it a lot because I do have a couple of people in my life that have helped me and given me some of this information. And if like my grandpa helped me buy my car,
Mm.
I would not have been able to buy that car without him. But he's not always going to be around. And like, if I needed that help, my daughter's probably going to need that help. My possible grandkids, my niecey, like I want to be able to get myself to that position where I don't want to be like rich and like stunting. Like I want to be able to provide
You want to be comfortable and be able to not only provide resources but knowledge.
resources and knowledge. Because like in this day and age, if you want to make money, you need a car.
Mm.
You need a car.
Well, even the way with my truck, dude. Like, even if like my truck, it could start a business alone. Like having a truck in general. You know what I'm saying? And there's money to be made out here for in any multiple ways. You know, and that's why I said like I say that way. I've never tried to struggle for money. Is that like I've always been able to get a job. You know what I'm saying? I've never had to really. How do I say this? It's been effortless. You know what I'm saying? For more or less. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say we ain't struggled. I'm not gonna say I haven't struggled. I ain't gonna say I ain't been eating ramen for a week before, but we've been there. But at the same time, it's nothing that I've necessarily. It's not weighed on me. You know what I'm saying? As like a ho hum. Like I've had that time where I've only had like a few $100s to work with, but I still gotta pay rent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean like. But I think I say that in the sense of like it's nothing it's not a worry. It's never a pressure. You know what I'm saying? Because money's a cycle. You know, it comes and goes. You know, but you do have to take. There are financial literacy, and there are steps in order to take if you want to reach a certain goal. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I remember where I was going with the excess part of. I remember just even in the technology age that we have now. Whenever I got like birthday money, Christmas money, I always accumulated my money. I always was like, okay, put that aside. You know what I'm saying? And so I got enough, bought a tablet, right? You know, so I understand like even being able to spend that amount of money on something I can get. You know what I'm saying? Do I need it? No. I'm 12 years old. I don't need a tablet. It's the fact that I could buy it on my own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so. And then with phones too. When was the first time you had a smartphone?
I was in the 7th grade, I think. I was like 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an iPhone 3. It was
Okay.
like my cousin or my dad or something. It was a hand-me-down iPhone 3.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I was an Android kid, bro.
I had an Android once or twice after that. But I remember that little fucking iPhone 3. It was like fucking tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I would text like 2 people.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I was 12, I was still running around in the creeks, like beating my friends up with sticks. Like,
Heathens.
we were still. I feel like we were that age group where we're just still young enough to have grown up normal a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was like a kid, it was still the flip phones,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get that like touchscreen, super fast-paced internet technology until I was about 12 or 13.
And see, for us it was quick, because I think the first time I had a phone, any kind of phone in general, was 5th grade. 'Cause I had to walk home to school, and then I think 7th or 8th grade was the first time I had a smartphone. I had a Android, yeah, like HTC. Old brand, HTC Android. I had Galaxies and all that, all Samsung and stuff like that. But I've had an iPhone since 2018, and it's not been. I've not felt any different. I don't know. I wonder if life would be different after Android.
I just buy the cheap phones,
Fair enough.
honestly. I feel like they tend to break at the same rate. So might as well, if I'm gonna be buying one every 2 to 3 years, buy one that's like $250
And they're so
instead of like
fucking
$1,000.
expensive. Like
Yeah.
$1,000.
It's real hard to get me to spend $1,000 on anything.
I mean, I can see like spending $1,000 on like a new a computer because of the complete utility you get out of it. You know what I'm saying? I can send emails from my phone. Yes, I can't type a ledger on my phone. I mean, I can. It's just not comfortable.
I can't play fucking Fortnite on my phone.
Exactly.
You might be able to do that. Actually,
You maybe.
Fortnite's
I don't
fucking everywhere. I should have chose a better game, but
yeah, I mean, it was hard not to get to fall in the Fortnite trap though.
I've played. I'm not hating. I'm not very good, but I've played. I won once by myself, and my heart was beating so fast. Turn the game off, dude. I was like, fuck, I got it. I'm done.
No, see, Fortnite season 3 dropped when we were freshmen in college. First Fortnite dropped when we were freshmen in college, and so we were like yelling down the dorm like to each other. Like, so for us, it was like those first few years of Fortnite was like awesome because the game was more simple. There wasn't as much like I hate the driving, the flying, and all that. I hate the building too. Like, I guess we're like the build mode, all that stuff. I'm like, I don't do all that. I'm just shoot, build a little bit, shoot, build a little bit, shoot. Cause even then I'm not really a gamer like that either, or like even a first person shooter gamer like that. I'm just more of like I was always more of a Madden or just 2K racing games. I really stuck with that from the time I was young on the GameCube. So even then, I'm not even really like a video game guy, you know?
I play, but these days I'll only play if it's like socially.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'll play games with the guys from work,
Mm.
and that's if I get a couple hours here and there throughout the week.
I will say I have looked into getting the Switch.
I played a shitload of Smash Bros. And Legend of Zelda on my Switch after high school. That was a worthwhile investment. I used to binge play video games a lot when I was in high school and like after high school. Like, it was bad, dude. Like, I was like 8 to 10 hour days playing video games, only stopping to eat. Right. And I had a job, it would be on my off days, just throwing that out there. But these days, there's no time for that kind of fucking.
Oh, hell no.
So if I do play games, it's usually because I'll be playing with my friends,
Mm.
and it's like something we could do together. But that's about it.
That's very nowadays. It's very seldom. Well, it's not seldom, but like you have allotted time for that. Discipline. That's another thing.
Discipline. Yeah, usually if I am playing games with somebody, I'm losing out on sleep that I should be getting.
Mm. Even then, like with life, back to the theme of like life not being linear, like the discipline part of it is the biggest part because life is gonna do that, but you still gotta stay at that discipline like level. You know what I mean?
Right. We have to try and maintain some kind of consistency within ourselves throughout all of the chaos. And I feel like life is cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
Like you find yourself in those moments where like you're taken back to maybe who you used to be. I have those moments sometimes where like something will happen and just like a sensory stimulus, right? And you get that memory of like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But then even not just within our own lives of seeing like patterns, right? And synchronicities, but like generationally too. Like you ever heard the stories about like people that are adopted and they grow up, right? And then as an adult, they meet their biological mother or father. And even though they've never met each other before, there's all these similarities. Like you can tell that this is a mother or a parent and child.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with all that time that went by.
I don't think you ever outrun the source. You never leave the source.
No.
That's why I learned derivatives, right? Of like you never stop. You're a source of your parents. You're gonna have the traits of your mom and the traits of your dad, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
But you're you as an individual, though. you know.
And then it just gets passed down.
It gets passed down. That's the consistency, really. And sometimes I think that's God, of just passing the same consistency through everything, you know, of life, or just continuity.
It definitely feels very like powerful,
Mm.
and magical doesn't feel right the right word.
Powerful, it seems a lot.
Yeah, it feels very powerful when you have one of those, when you like almost get like a glimpse, like something, you see something happens. There's this moment, and like you can just kind of peek through the curtain just a second, and then it's gone. And
I guess I peek through the curtain, because life is a stage, or the world is a stage, almost.
And I really believe that like we all tell ourselves, we all have some kind of version of our story that we're telling ourselves, that we're trying to understand, right? And like, why do you think books and movies and video games are like stories are fundamental to like who we are as people? And so life probably, that's why some people are so goddamn dramatic too. I say that as somebody who can be very dramatic sometimes.
Yeah, same. I understand. I think a lot of times, I think getting out of reactions, you know, because a lot of times we react more than we think. You know what I mean? I think, like, same thing I was talking about earlier with like, I hate to talk about death so much, but like the way kind of getting out of that, like, I'll say that, you know, there's gonna be deaths that are gonna shake my boots. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think, like, I guess knowing how to get out of that, you know, 'cause I think I was talking about the devil's in the details, you know, and the objective, the big picture, you know what I'm saying, of why things happen. You know, you never know why things happen when you're going through it. You know what I'm saying? Because while you're in it, there's only a certain perspective you have. But then once you get out of it and you're able to see just the big picture of why everything happens, you know, not why everything happens, but in general, just the way the system works. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all got to even out in some way, you know? And really, I think just you learn to appreciate, you know, after a while, the good times and the bad times, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're all, again, it's a cycle. It's gonna come, you know, regardless.
And it's gonna pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. It could be a little surreal. Like Rosemary, when she gets angry, she makes an angry face. I'm like, that's my angry face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that looks like my dad's angry face.
Exactly.
Like the way she like scowls and like yells whenever she's angry. Like I've seen it before, but it's her own now, you know. And baby's, she's got more feelings than thoughts right now for sure.
Exactly.
She's still really young, but like, it's really cool to see her grow up.
You see,
I can't believe she's almost a year older already. It's fucking insane.
they grow fast.
They grow really fast, dude.
And time just flies, especially.
She bit me yesterday.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Where?
On my chin.
Why?
I fell for it. I fell. I was
Oh,
holding
she
it.
caught you.
She caught me lacking, dude. I was holding her. I was about to leave for work, and she was a little fussy. And then she stopped fussing. She like grabbed hold of both of my shirt, like right here. She came in, mouth open, and like bonk, and just. It's a little.
She had
nubby baby teeth.
Oh, no baby. Okay. I'm about to say.
Little
She had
nubby.
teeth in.
Yeah, they're poking through. And I'm not mad at her for biting me. It hurt like a son of a bitch. I was surprised how forceful it was. But like that was not 6 or 7 months ago. You know, what feels like yesterday. She was like a little sack of potatoes. You know, she slept and burped and that was it.
Is she June 3rd or 2nd?
4th.
4th. Okay.
She's the 4th.
And you're June 1st.
I'm the 1st.
I thought almost.
At 4 a.m.
A twin with your baby.
4 a.m. in the morning, the day after my birthday, City May went into labor. And then it was like a 3-day ride.
And that feeling of like the going into labor, we're going into labor.
It was intense and it built up the
Mm.
whole time. Because we tried to be really educated about what we were going into. And so we knew that labor takes a while, especially with first-time moms. It typically takes a while. So it's going to start, but just as soon as it starts, like, we still have time. We still have a little bit of time. So the first day, honestly, was not too... And I also keep in mind, I'm just the passenger. Surime has, I'm sure, her own feelings about all of this, and it was a lot more uncomfortable for her throughout it. But I think she would agree that the first day was a lot easier than the second day and the second night. For me, I just felt like it reminded me of how vulnerable life can be. Because in that moment for me, I'm powerless, right? There's not anything that I can necessarily do to fix a problem. You know, she's in a lot of pain, and we got to get the baby here. And so you got to be like a rock. You just got to be you got to be the only calm person in the bitch as best you can be. And that shit was really hard. It was probably the single most difficult thing that I've ever done, followed by the single greatest triumph of my entire life. Like 100% worth it. But it was hard to go through. And again, I was just the passenger. I think it's insane that birth works the way that it does, that women just grow a person in there.
A whole organism.
A whole organism. And Surime walks around now, almost a year later, like nothing happened. But you were... I remember. I'm ranting a little bit, but...
Oh, bro, no, I mean, in the 2 years that I met you, Damian, the amount of growth that we've both gone through. Remember both of our hair? And now we both have shorter hair, bro.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
And the amount of stuff that we've not only learned individually, but together from just going through similar shared experiences.
It's been... I'll give our job some credit for that. It's been a really nice platform for growth. Like, if you're willing to do the work well, it's a really nice place to grow. Like, it's not going to make you grow. You still have to do that yourself.
And we've seen people grow. You know,
we've seen a lot of people grow. It is really cool. And yeah, like, we're not kids anymore. When I went out to see some of the bands at the Grand Stafford the other weekend, one of the bands went on, and they were really good, but they just looked really young to me. And it had been their debut show, and I was like, I thought these kids were like high schoolers. Like, I was like, they must be like 16, 17, like looking at their faces up on the stage with all the lights. And after the show, I was talking to my buddy, and he was like, yeah, it was their debut show. I was like, yeah, man, like, how old are those kids? And he was like, oh, they go to A&M. They're like 19. And I was like, holy shit, like, that's what a 19-year-old looks like to me now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like yesterday I was 19. And now, like, the last 2 years, like you said, I think were a very productive 2 years.
Tough. Very tough.
Very trying and challenging.
But
yeah, worth it. Reaped a lot of rewards.
Learned a lot of lessons. Tough lessons. Not only from, like, personal and professional.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. It's been interesting I became the manager about a month before Rosemary was born. And so I've been kind of learning how to do both at the same time. And yeah, it was a challenging year. But I
think that was such perfect timing, bro.
I got pretty lucky with how things worked out.
I was like, what? Like, it just the way. Again, goes back to just like synchronicities.
we just keep going.
I'll say like
I'm here for it.
I'll say the one thing about you too is that like one thing a lot of people revere about you is that like you're very. One thing I like is that you're very hardworking, but you're so nonchalant about it.
I'm glad it appears that way.
Okay, like surface level, bro.
Thank you.
Your surface level, bro. You got it on lock.
There's just, if I panic, I'm only gonna stress myself out twice. It's kind of the way I see it.
You were a cross country runner, so that's kind of how you got that from.
It's very intrinsically motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. We got a pallet in Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked a 12-hour shift. And like, I don't mind doing that necessarily. I know it's not like an everyday thing that's required of me. And honestly, like none of our bosses, called me and told me that I needed to do that. It was just like, this is a whole shitload of work to do.
Mm.
And I don't feel right walking away and just leaving my team of people, 2 people, to do this by themselves for, 5 or 6 hours. So I stayed later and we reached a more comfortable stopping point before we left. The whole time, I had no idea what was going on.
Mm.
But like step by step, right? Bite by bite, one fucking thing at a time. Same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Like, we're gonna get there somehow.
Never tried elephant.
Me neither.
Okay.
But I know you'd eat it one bite at a time.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I do appreciate that.
Of course.
And I will also say, one of the things that I really respect about the way that you do your work, especially as somebody who got to work alongside you, and then the few shifts that you've worked at CS2 since I've started managing, is just how open and willing you are to engage with people. Like, no matter who you're talking to, you want to show them so many different things, and you want to keep that conversation going. And I think that a lot of people can sometimes, I'm not talking about our coworkers, I'm talking about people, like in life, can sometimes get caught up in just going through the motions. And I always see you kind of mixing it up.
I found a fortune. So I used to be a person, like I had a bunch of fortune cookies left everywhere, right? And so there was a couple that I just had them. I was like, why do I have these? Threw them all away, right? I walked back like 2 days later, and there's one left on the ground outside my place that fell out, right? I pick it up, I read it. It said, "Your generosity never fails to impress others." I was like, I think I was meant to keep this one, Yeah. and kept that, because sometimes I get into that as someone who's very imperfect as well. I'm learning to take time to recharge myself, and pour back into myself, and remember just figuring out how to do that in a healthy way. And not even figuring out, I know how to do it in a healthy way. It's just getting back to the discipline of doing that in a healthy way,
Yeah.
and just knowing when to say when, basically, when to say when and what to say no to,
Yeah.
But also to still be open to anything, Don't be closed, not necessarily be closed off. Now some things it's kind of like, some things seem like some BS on the surface, you might get some BS, you know what I mean? You gotta just practice your own personal discernment, And that's for everybody, it looks different for everybody, so.
Yeah. I really have to pee.
Oh, no, it's all good.
Can I?
A cross-country runner, how much water did you use to intake on a daily?
Well, then a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. I lived a very different life during cross-country season because we would practice early as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had to be at school by 6 a.m. Yeah.
I mean, I do that, but I mean, like, I did the same
Honestly,
thing in football.
Props to my mother for waking up at 5:30 every day and taking me to practice. That's the only reason I was able to go. And then as we got older, one of the other runners who had a car would come pick me up in the morning so she could sleep in. But we'd wake up at like 5:30, run, 5 or 6 miles by the time it was 7:30 in the morning, go to school. By the time it was 7 or 8 p.m., dude, I was fucking exhausted. and I would eat like a shitload of pasta, pizza, a lot of carbs, because you just needed energy to just keep going.
Mm.
And so pretty much every like, I would drink a lot of water, and I would constantly be blasting myself in the face with the. You remember the little tubs on wheels that they'd have, and you could grab the nozzle and like press it, and it would spray water. Did you guys ever have that at like football practice?
Yes.
They have a bunch of hoses off it, so you can all drink at once.
I love those.
Yeah, get you a drink, get you a splash, keep running. What, honestly, when I got out of school,
What we call the cow? The cow.
the cow, that's
Yeah.
what it was called.
Mm.
Yeah. We'd always be salty when football practice did start because we'd have to share our cow.
Oh, dude,
We'd get like a whole cow to ourselves in the morning when it was just us.
those things were legit.
It was always so cold. Too.
Yes, they were. Oh my god, especially after sprints. Or during practice, just like being able to just spray water on your face.
Honestly, the best workout we ever did for running specifically, like
I felt the euphoric. I felt the euphoric, like just blast from the past just now, like just sitting there, just hot ass day, running over, just like that was a fucking
dude.
haven at the cow.
Yeah, dude. Well, in football, you guys would practice after school too, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
See, we'd have like optional ones after school sometimes, but it was just too goddamn hot, bro. It was just too goddamn hot. And I mean, football season goes a little later than cross country season.
See, we go into like depending on how good your team is, we go into December.
We start in like July,
Fuck that.
and we usually run until like the beginning of November.
Okay, so y'all usually get like so you're not out there for the cold or anything like that.
And that usually is all right.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually it's really fucking hot. And like the races will be like at the meets would be like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and even by 9, like if you're running at 9 a.m., you're fucked. It's gonna be 100 degrees outside because it's August 22nd, in
Yeah.
Texas.
I mean, even then, like we had like camp in the morning. So for football, you had 2 days, of course, right? And so usually like usually be like 6 or 7 in the morning, and then you come back around like 3-4 o'clock. That was when it was horrible. When you're walking out and you see the heat waves coming up from the turf, and you like, and you play defense, so you're wearing all black. Yeah, no, but you know how many cleats I've seen melt off? Yeah, I've seen cleats literally melt off the bottom purely because the ground was so hot. Like literally, the glue was holding the cleat on the bottom. Literally came off unstuck.
And even if you like traveled for a game, getting back on the bus, fuck that. We'd be done with our meets by like the middle of the day. It'd be like 12 in August. Get back on the bus after you just ran
That's
a
disgusting.
5K. Yeah, it was fucking nasty.
Those fucking seats too. The sweatiness on the bus seats. I know the feeling. So luckily we had charter buses. For at least for away game, like big away games like that, we had charter buses. Like, at least like we got the playoffs. But
Did you play the year of that CSHS won the state championship?
I did not.
What year was that? 2017.
Yes, that was after I graduated. Now I will say, probably fondest memory that I had from playing football was just purely after we won a championship game for the district, and we were in their turf. They hadn't been beaten in their stadium in like maybe 4 years or something like that, and they hadn't lost a district game in who knows how long. And we came in there, beat them, and then the best memory was just the fact that we were all sitting outside the stadium before we got back on the bus, just eating pizza. And I'm like, bro, we're just sitting there, just like, we're undefeated. We're the champs. And we're all sitting out here just literally watching the cars drive by. Just like, just eating pizza. Like, and there's like there's a level of, there's a high. I was going to say, there's a high that goes along with that.
Definitely.
Of being along with the guys who you bleed, sweat, sometimes cry with. You know what I'm saying? And y'all are champions, It's like you did something and you accomplished it. And it's like not only that, but you're undefeated.
Yeah.
And when I was just sitting outside their stadium eating pizza, that was probably the best memory I had. Honestly, one of the best memories, just being able to just sit there and just like, I'm just with all my boys eating pizza outside after we just beat the shit out of this team and won a championship. You know, I'm like, this is so wholesome. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just like you can't make this up.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
you can't.
real.
You know.
Yeah. I definitely have some like unfinished sports trauma because I didn't finish running my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll always wonder, I'm like, what could have been? It probably would have been a very average cross country season. But like I never got to finish out those final races. These days, sometimes I run just to prove to myself that I still can, but like time. Again.
Mm-hmm.
Time.
See, I'm just not a distance. I can run distance. Give me at most, bro. Give me 2 miles. That's about it. At the most, and even then, it's gonna be trying 2 miles for me. I something I've always had to work on was pacing myself. In general, not just running, but just in general.
I will say when you do it every day, you'd be surprised how like fast your body adjusts. Because when my first day of cross country practice, I ran probably 200 meters and then started walking. Couldn't keep fucking going. And then by the end of that season, I was on the varsity team. And it was a long fucking road to get there. But like I went from not being able to run more than half a mile to being able to finish my 3-mile runs without stopping, and then to be able to get them a little bit faster, and then to get them a little bit faster.
Consistency. We
used to do this workout. My coach called them pace miles, and we'd do 5 of them. And I don't know how they got the time. I think they took your like fastest mile from one of your races, and they would give you that time, and you were trying to run that. You weren't trying to go as fast as you could. You were trying to run a 6:05 or a 6:30, whatever it was.
Just pace.
Just find the pace. And as you would come around every lap, they'd yell out, speed up, slow down, like you're at this break. And boys would run, get off, take a break while the girls ran theirs, get off. We'd run one, they'd take their break, and we'd do 5 each. So 5 miles, doing them, 6.5 minutes apiece. By the time you get out there on race day, you know what that feels like. And you can find that pace, and you can ride it all the way out and end up with a way faster time because you could find that consistency. That's the workout for me. Like after we started doing those, I ended up beating some of the other guys' times, and I finally made it onto the varsity spot.
What's your best mile time?
My best mile time? My best mile was actually in one of my slowest 5Ks because I burnt out and like damn near shit myself towards the end of the race. I was also sick, I'd like to say.
Okay.
But
context.
The first mile of it was a 5:15.
Damn.
And it was the district meet. There's the Equine Center.
Yes.
For Texas A&M. And that little just long stretch of fucking field that they have.
5:15 was the best one you clocked.
Yeah. And the best I ever did at like track, like on the track, was probably like a 5:20 something.
Okay.
And my best 5K is 3.1 miles. So it's literally 3 miles and then like a 100-meter dash right at the end. It was in 1936.
Which is still crazy. Because you're right. You're clocking right underneath a 7 minute, on a pace of under 7 minutes, but that's very continuous 3 miles, though.
Yeah, it's like a 6.5,
7.
6:45. When it was probably more something like 5:50, 6 minutes, maybe 6.5, and like you spread out. But
dude, 6.5 is my best track, like on the track time, like 1 mile. Like that's why I'll tell you, like, bro, like
these days it'd still probably be like 8 minutes, 9 minutes. If I just went out there to try and run one right now, yeah, I could maybe cut it back down. But what's weird, I haven't gained a lot of weight, but I was still a little bit shorter then too. And like my knees hadn't ran as much yet. My knees weren't as fucked up yet.
That's one thing. What thinking about like we both said how much we weigh, and we're like, yeah, we both need to go eat more food. And um, one thing I'm like, it's always been hard for me to gain because I've always been a cardio dude. You know,
Yeah.
like I always got to run. I can't just straight put weight on. You know, I gotta do some kind of cardiovascular activity.
It's also like that's what's fun for me. Like running's more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I'm gonna lift, like I need to have like a partner, or like a buddy. It needs to be social, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I go run, like, it can just be it's just me and the noggin, and just one foot in front of the other. And like that's what I'm good at.
Mm.
But then yeah, same deal. I cannot put weight on for the freaking life of me.
I can put like muscle. I can get muscle on, but actually holding weight, like I'll put like you'll see the definition come out. I'm like actually put muscle on, but it's like actually like putting on more like pounds. It's like man, that takes a minute. But I can see my like. But when it comes to getting stronger though, no problem.
Right.
Like body adapts like that. You know, like the same weight I did last week, I'm not doing the same weight this week. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, but same thing with running. I think the best. There was a time where I was able to almost like feel like sprinting almost, but like get a good distance going, and then like not feel like I'm trying when I'm running. You know, that took. I mean, I ran every morning though. Like so, you have to really run like consistently.
You got to do it basically every day.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about discipline during that period of my life, but I can't say that I go hunting miles down as much anymore. Because, like, I did the math, and it was, like, probably, like, 13 to 17 miles a week, something like that, over, 6 months.
Jesus.
Which 6 times 4 is 24, so, like, 24 times 13, like, times that by, 3 seasons, and
That's a lot.
it was a lot of miles,
Mm-hmm.
and my knees be popping, dude.
Right.
So do my ankles.
Mm-hmm. Hey, hold on. Can I do mental math that good? You said 24 times 17?
24
Times
times
13.
17
Times 13.
times 13.
24 times 13. Watch this. That's that good math. Watch. Ooh, bring down to 0. Oh, wait. Carry to 4. Hold on. So you about 310. Wait, no. Roughly about 312 miles.
I think you're right, because if you break it down, 24 times 10 is 240. 24 times 3 is 72.
Yes.
72 plus 240 is 312. It's
Mm-hmm.
about 300 miles a season. So like 900 miles.
That's exactly how I did it in my head. Just you explained it better.
I talk through. I can't do it. I didn't know what the answer was until you said it, because I have to like say it in order to be able to hold it. I can't hold track of it all in my head.
See, I literally put the 24 over the 13, and then did the line. I literally just moved the numbers in my head of like, that goes there, that goes there. Wait, what was right there? Wait, it's like a little piece of the paper I forget to see in my head. I'm like, oh shit. Let me know how you do math in your head. Comment how you do math in your head.
How do you do math in your head?
Yes, that's some yeah. Cause like the way you explained it, exactly how I did it. You said 72 plus 240. It's like that's exactly how I set it up.
You just gotta break it down. Do you know that there's not actually a single system of mathematics that has been like definitively proven?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why the education, like when it comes to like math and education, is so crazy to me. Because so many people are taught math so different ways, you know?
What do you think about a little bit of pseudoscience? What do you think about numerology? Just your thoughts.
I mean, you're a life path 1, so I already did the math. Wait, January 1st to 01? Oh, excuse me, June 1st, 01.
June 1st, 01. I think I am a life path 1.
Yes.
Wasn't that like a whole book about life paths?
I think so. I have one online. It was when it comes to numerology, I like numerology. I was one that fell into astrology because there was so this one girl in my class, she just proceeded back in high school. She proceeded to read a synopsis of like how I think, basically, to me. I was like, "What's that book again?" I was like, it just seems kind of accurate, you know. That's what kind of drew it to me, cause like I guess nothing she said did not resonate. I was like, that's kind of how I feel sometimes, yeah, you know.
And that's kind of the value that I find in a lot of that stuff is I don't necessarily believe that the numbers or the stars make me this way 100%, but like there's still like truth that can be found that you can resonate with. And like it can't, as long as you don't take it to an extreme, it's not going to hurt. You know, I kind of see tarot the same way. Like when I get a tarot reading done, it's not necessarily that I fully believe that the magical cards know me, but I feel like all of the cards kind of know people, and they're designed to know people.
I think it's just the spirit realm, dude. Honestly.
And I think there's good truth there, no matter what. Numerology, I'm a little bit more, I have fun with it. I don't put as much stock in it. Sarime, actually, before we ever started dating, got me a little book on numerology, and it said you could like find the numerological value of like your name, right? Because the letters in the alphabet are in numbered positions, and you can find like the value number of your name. And I don't remember what the number was, but I did my name, and I looked at like the little like omen or symbol it had attached to the number, right? And the number was the tower. And it said, everything you build will fall. And I was like, so I'm going to put this fucking book down. And I was like, I don't need that in my life.
Everything you build will fall.
It's like, damn, book, that's... And that, as much as I tried to just like write it off, stuck with me and bothered me for a little while before I realized that like it doesn't have to be negative. You know, it's just kind of like that mortal fact of life that we were talking about earlier.
Things will fall eventually.
Things will fall. The best builders are the people that build things that don't fall for the longest amount of time. Like that's part of the human condition is entropy. Things have to be maintained, but we still build. We still have that like urge, and so I haven't let it stop me from building. But definitely in the moment, I was like, "Fuck this book."
Yeah, no, 100%. See, there was one like those little like apps and stuff. I had one of those little like tarot apps for a little bit, and I wouldn't have had it if it didn't give me something that hit me differently every day. You know, I'm like, there was one that showed me a card. It said, "Pour into others," you know, and you get out what you pour in, basically. You know, it was one. I think she's pouring a vat of water into the ocean, and then stars were coming out of this one that she's holding in her hand. And it said, "Pour into others, you get out what you put in," basically. And it's like learn how to pour into not only to yourself but into others, and just how to balance it. Yeah. That's really it.
And did you guys? We've talked a lot about school. Did you guys have the golden rule?
Treat others how you want to be treated.
Treat others how you want to be treated.
Bro, I asked my mom this today, bro. I was like, "Why?" I think I always operate off that principle. And sometimes it makes you idealistic. You know that the world should be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think it's not a bad. It's not a bad rule to go off of. But if you take it to heart, I think you become too caught up with how you want to be treated rather than how you'd rather treat.
Right.
You know?
Can maybe make you a little naive sometimes.
You know?
And you got to accept that not everybody's going to do that.
Well, because and it could be for whatever reason, too. You know? I think, again, the devil's in the details. I think we get too caught up in those details. That's when the devil comes. You know, like the devil or whatever. Just I think it's positive and negative. That's why the yin yang right there. Positive and negative.
Right.
You know? But even then, there's a yin yang. There's still light on the negative and then dark on the positive.
Right.
You know?
Man, Uncle Iroh taught me that shit.
Uncle Iroh.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I'd never watched Avatar, bro.
Caleb.
Oh yeah, no, I was not an Avatar kid.
Okay, I'm gonna call. All right, I don't want. I'm sure lots of people have given you flack for this. I'm not gonna give you a hard time. You should watch it, and you in the comments.
Avatar?
In the comments, you guys know that he should
Pokemon.
watch it. Pokemon, I'm not a big one.
Dragon Ball Z.
I watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z.
What's another one I didn't watch that much? I see. Okay, everybody. My question is, how do so many people remember so many specific episodes of SpongeBob?
Cause they're fucking iconic.
I don't remember specific episodes like that because I saw so many fucking episodes of SpongeBob on a regular basis.
I also feel like when we were younger, there were fewer episodes, and so we got more reruns. Because there's a lot. Because I used to watch SpongeBob like every day when I got home from school, and like there was a lot more like seeing episodes over and over again. Now I also probably watched too much TV as a kid.
I did too. I can 100% admit nowadays that I watched too much TV as a kid.
But that's the reason that you watch season 1 of SpongeBob, every 30 seconds you're gonna see a meme. You're gonna see a meme that you have seen 1,000 times before every 30 seconds. Because it's just really iconic.
Yeah,
it's
Jesus.
a really big part of our generation's cultural zeitgeist, in my opinion.
It really is.
It really is. My sister called me the other day, and she was like, our little brother and her boyfriend both didn't recognize this quote. So she's like, I want to tell you this quote, and I need you to recognize it for me, please. And then she goes, there once was a man from Peru who, I think it's like, went and lived in a shoe or went and ate a shoe. And it's when SpongeBob goes into Gary's dream and Gary starts reciting poetry. See, and like it's ingrained in my mind. I knew exactly what she was talking about as soon as she said it.
Have you seen the theory, and I'm gonna be careful with this one, the theory that SpongeBob represents the 7 deadly sins?
I have seen that one.
Yeah.
I have seen that one. They're definitely not
Far off.
There's a lot of stuff in there that's not for kids.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you don't see it. I think that's part of what makes the show great, personally. I didn't notice any of that stuff when I was a kid. But now I go back and watch it and certain things happen and I'm like, oh. And it has like it's fun for the parents to watch too. And that's a good show. If you can get the whole family that wants, especially back at the time where you got to, change the channel. Dad gets the remote. Like,
see, even then, I don't. My parents never let me. We never necessarily liked me watching SpongeBob, I would say. And that was another thing I was talking about with like symbolism sometimes. And I guess the way I saw it was like, I guess growing and seeing that kind of theory, I'm like, how much is out there that they're not, goes unseen, that affects us in different ways, Just a question.
I've been questioning a lot of tropes lately. I've been reading the Wheel of Time. It's a fantasy series, right? And I'm a huge fucking nerd. You can probably tell by looking at me, but I'm a really big nerd. I love Middle Earth. I love Lord of the Rings.
Take the glasses off. I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah. It's a Led Zeppelin t-shirt.
I actually stole this from my sister a long time ago. But
no hard feelings.
No hard feelings. She knows. You're not getting it back. I've been noticing a lot of tropes. A lot of stuff that's in a lot of these same stories, right? And for me, I've been focusing on that kind of like epic fantasy, but I still see things that are just like the hero's journey in general. And like, there's always like a festival, right? You ever seen Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
So like Bilbo's birthday party in the beginning, or in this book I'm reading, there's like there's like a fantasy Christmas almost in a lot of these worlds. Like there's always some kind of festival or party or feast. Sometimes an old man sacrifices himself to let the group get away. Gandalf. Yeah. That happens in the book that I'm reading now. Star Wars, even. Obi-Wan, right? Obi-Wan sacrifices himself to Vader to let the kids get away. Dark Riders are a big one, like Dark Horsemen, especially in fantasy. You got the cloaked Nazgul in Lord of the Rings. Like, and a big part of why I've been looking for these as I'm reading and trying to just like single them out and understand them is because I want to know what is it about these things that like why are they so archetypical? Like why are they so prevalent
A
across
sacrifice,
all these different stories?
like a sacrificial lamb, in a sense, or or like the old man sacrificing himself for the younger.
For the younger, that was the one that Surime actually spotted that one
Hmm.
because the book I'm reading, there's an older gentleman who was traveling with two of the main characters, and he sacrificed himself so that they could get away. And I told her, and she was like, "Is that a trope?" And then I thought about it. I was like, Gandalf, Obi-Wan. I'm sure there's plenty more examples.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of crow or like raven symbolism,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then there's that one I feel like is kind of explanatory why that one's so popular and like the cultural kind of imagery. But and then there's always like a chosen sword, you know, like some kind of sacred weapon, sacred sword. His
Mm-hmm.
father's lightsaber, sword of the stone, Excalibur, fucking. Even in Lord of the Rings, there's Anduril.
Well, I think that goes just back to. I think when it comes to having, in different ways, I think the like the heirloom like that just comes to having like a having like an heirloom having meaning to something, you know, and giving something meaning. I think when it comes to I don't know if it's a trope necessarily. I just think it's just naturally what happens. You know, the usually it's the one who usually it's like we see like on Titanic, who's the first one to get off? The women and children, you know, and the men stay back. So same way, it's like the old man will sacrifice himself for the newer generation, and then vice versa. And I think now, I mean, even then, that's why sometimes I think it's like convoluted, because like not convoluted, but look, the military ages, or the retirement age is 65, right? So you can't. Obviously, I wouldn't want anybody over the age of 65 fighting for our country or fighting. You know what I'm saying? But like even now, like the ones who are, even then, it's just the ones who are able. You know, not even to think of age, just able. You know what I'm saying? The ones who are able will fight. You know, to sacrifice for that of, I guess, the greater good. You know?
Yeah. We have that instinct in us. And I don't think it's just men either. Like I think it's like caretakers in general and just, you know, another one of those human things.
To protect or preserve what we perceive as meaningful.
Yes. I do think life is very meaningful. It's a very cool, for lack of a better word, experience that we get to go through. A lot of ups and downs, but like it's so unique even to it's like it's unique to each one of us, but then we have those cycles, you know, and you have those synchronicities, and at the end of the day everything is so interconnected. And like it's just like it's cool that we get to be here. That we get to witness.
I think that we've gotten to this point when we like over intellectualize because a lot of times I think we over intellectualize what we go through. I think we're going through like an era, or we're about to go through an era of, I don't want to say ignorance, but like kind of an era of, I'm trying to think of how I want to say it. It's not necessarily over intellectualizing, but actually just kind of doing, you know, more going back to doing more rather than sitting back and observing, you know.
Right.
I think a lot of times, like going back to consumer society, or like we live in a more consumer based place, you know, rather than we're more creating. You know what I'm saying? Like a true alchemy, you know, creating something out of nothing. You know what I mean?
And I definitely feel like the gears are turning. Like, there's been a lot of shifts over the last couple of years. And in a weird way, I think COVID kind of helped with the doing. Like, a lot of the times when people... Well, let's be honest about one thing. Texas did not lock down.
Oh, no.
Okay? I never had to go through that. I worked at a fucking car wash, and they said we're gonna stay open until somebody comes and tells us we have to shut down because we're not essential. Right? So like, I don't feel like here we really suffered the full brunt of the lockdown like they did in other places that took it more seriously. But a lot of people had so much time, and they started to really like invest their time into activities. And this is actually something in marketing where like the younger generations are more interested in spending their money on experiences as opposed to like things. Like concerts, movies, festivals. You know, like that's something that we're more drawn towards.
I think it's more of like crazy enough, right? I woke up this morning and I was watching what was playing after the podcast, but it was a 1993 Bills and Steelers game. All right. And I was watching the commercials and I was like, huh. And I just saw every advertisement of sell, 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 you know? And I was like, even then, I was like, it was crazy to get the experience what it was like to watch TV 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Just on my TV, just from a broadcast. And I saw like, not FedEx commercials, Federal Express commercials. In 1993, a 6-inch meatball sub at Subway was $1.69.
Oh. Damn.
Right?
That hurt a little bit.
Right? An Oldsmobile, right? Just a regular Oldsmobile. Starting MSRP, $9,995.
I wish.
This was 30 years ago.
30
right?
years ago.
Dude, I'm just like, and so in that same breath of, I'm trying to think of when did really, because concert eras and concerts never really went away, like festivals, stuff like that, like ACL, stuff like that. I guess we've been much more of a I've really even been really the past 4 or 5 years that our consumerism is really like taking a hold, like a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even then, I remember like, you ever take family vacations growing up?
A couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too crazy, no like Disneyland or anything, but we went to go to like the zoo or a museum. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go camping or go to like the lake.
And see, like we used to do stuff like that too. And I guess we're going through that. I want to call it a renaissance, maybe, of like more doing rather than just sitting back and consuming. You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more of that in my own life. I know. That's why I've been trying to read more. Because I'd rather read than scroll.
Yeah.
Like
the scroll is horrible, and you get caught in it so easily. You don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah,
Like,
dude. Yeah, dude. Honestly, it was something that I was closing last night, and Alyssa was closing with me, and I was like, I don't know. It's like 11:57. It's like I don't know what I'm gonna do when I get home. She was like, "Don't doom scroll." She's like, "Whatever you do, I promise you, don't doom scroll." And I'm like, "You're so right."
mm-hmm.
So you get home from work, sit down in bed, open up TikTok, hour and a half goes by,
Mm-hmm.
gone, just fucking gone. I'm like, holy shit! Like I don't have time for that. Like that's an hour and a half I need.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about this with my friend Brian the other day. Of like, America produces so much like content. Like we produce so much media. Like we're the best media producers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Hollywood. People, a lot of other countries like to say Americans have no culture while they're watching like a movie made that in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how it's like it's stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's content. It's stuff that you can engage with. Like
I'll say America definitely has a culture. I was talking about this the other day. I was like, you can't. I hear people say white people don't have culture. I'm like, don't say that, man. You got to go to Europe before you say that, dog. There's so many. I'm like, it's such an American ideal that I mean, I would say like America. I can't even say that, because everybody has a culture, whether it be just individual family culture or anything like that. Like, this was one thing I was like, man, you can't say white people don't have culture, bro. Like, you got to go to. I was like, there's so many different cultures, that you can't just even pin one down. You can't even like African. Like, there's so many African countries and different cultures and different
Oh yeah.
ways of life that you can't pin down anything. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that like one of the things that underlines a lot of Americans is like the consumerism. Like that's something that we all kind of understand, like intrinsically.
Mm.
Like how easy it is to just go down to the street and get a burger or a pizza or get paper towels. You gotta have money for it, and the money can be really tough. But like so many resources are readily available for us if we can pay for them. It's getting harder and harder to fucking pay for them every day. But we have that, like, it's a little luxury that we all share.
Mm.
And America is kind of weird, or the United States is kind of weird in the sense that, like, a lot of people that live here are some amount of generations removed from immigration. Literally all the way back to the very beginning.
I mean, shit. And if we're being real, like, I mean, how did we get here?
Exactly how did we get here? And for some people, it could be as soon as, as recently as their parents or even them, or it could be their grandparents, or like in my family's, it's closer to like great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, so the ones that made the journey, whoever it was. And so you've got all these different people that are coming from all these different places. And like so many families have these like little traditions or little things that they might do that traces back to their, German great grandma on this side, or their Italian. A big thing in my family was always being Sicilian, like being my great grandmother came over on the boat from Sicily, and it's like I that doesn't make me an Italian, that's not what that means. But like those stories and those people. This is a little off topic, but kind of in the same vein. One of the things I use to motivate myself sometimes is I think about my ancestors. I just think about the like crazy chain of people that goes all the way back God knows how long. Like how many times must my line of fathers possibly died, or possibly lost their life. And I'm still here somehow. You're still here somehow. Like, and I'm like, if they could make it, if they can carry this torch all the way to me, I can keep carrying the torch. I got it. That's what we're built for.
You talk about all the Mediterranean stuff, bro. You have me thinking about food all the time.
I'm getting hungry. You mentioned that sub.
No,
earlier.
See, and because last thing, because I made a comment about how I was like spaghetti. I was like an Italian thing. I said black people and Italians really have a lot in common. And one of our coworkers was like, I mean, look at where Africa and Italy is. I was like, well, yeah. It's like really the Mediterranean, anything that small little, that's just the melting pot of where the world started. The Middle East
and North Africa.
North Africa, that's all where the world just started. Greece, that's all where the world started right there.
All those different cultures so close to each other geographically. Yeah. And there's also something to be said. I think I saw this on a TikTok, and I don't think it's 100% true, but I think there's some truth in it, which is like a lot of different colors and creeds in the U.S. are united by rich culture and poor culture.
Yes.
Like, and there was actually a comedian. He was talking about like Arkansas or Mississippi or something. He's like, "Oh, here it doesn't matter if we're black or we're white. We're all just poor." And like, if you eat your cereal out of an old can that says this on it, like, that doesn't matter what color you are. It's just poor. And I think that a lot of the times, like, no matter who you are in life, where you find yourself in America and in American society unites us also. Like you and I, we're service work, we're retail workers. Like we get up every day, we go clock in, we provide a service and we exchange goods, and then we come home and we get a paycheck. And like that's who a lot of Americans are, is we're just people who are working,
Yeah.
trying to, get their money and be able to provide for themselves. And I don't know. I think it's a little crazy how divisive things have gotten lately. We got a political ad at the shop a couple weeks back. A robot called the store phone, and we have to answer the store phone. So I answer it, and I gave my whole greeting, and howdy, thank you for calling Watts on Holloman. What can I get for you? It's just quiet. About to hang up, I'm like, hello, nothing. And then just as I'm about to hang up, the automated message kicks in. And I don't even remember who they were, what side of the aisle they were on. This isn't really anything about politics. It was just the way that the lady's voice was like, the opening line was like, our cities have become a cultural battleground for the integrity of America. And I had hung up the phone and I set it down and I was like, a battleground?
Battleground.
I don't, and that's right where we started the podcast. I don't see a battleground when I go outside every day, when I go to work every day, and we have front-facing jobs with the public. We talk to strangers, we talk to, dozens of people every day just going about their business.
Daily basis.
I'm not seeing warriors and soldiers in a battlefield out here, man.
I see people fighting personal battles.
Yeah.
I
see people struggling.
I think that's the cool part about our job too, is that we make so many people's day.
Yeah.
Is that even when I ask somebody, I realized even when I was a cashier at a grocery store, I was even asking somebody, hey, how's your day going? Some people are surprised and relieved that someone asked them how their day's going. Yeah. And they're like, oh, shit, my day's good, man. And sometimes, you ask that question, it's a can of worms, because they're going to tell you about everything in their day, in their life. You're like, oh, shit, okay, I didn't need to know all that, but okay. But
there's also some people, they're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's amazing to me how people can struggle to have a conversation sometimes.
It's a skill.
It's a skill. And we admit it, we do get to use it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to make us better than a lot of people. But, even just those people that walk in and you're like, hey, how's it going? And they're just silent. And then they walk up and they're like, one vape. And you're like, okay.
I realize a lot of people are more nervous than I think.
Right.
As a person who's not nervous, I'm kind of like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? And some people really just have nerves. And one video, I recommend people watch too. It was a Jubilee video I watched. It was they were blindfolded 6 black dudes in a box, right? Sounds bad, but okay. They blindfolded and then they put one white guy in there, right? But the white guy's from Compton.
Oh, and they were trying to suss him out.
Yes,
who's the white guy? I think I haven't watched the video, but I saw the thumbnail.
Dude, and they voted out at least 3 or 4 black dudes before they got the white guy.
Before they got him,
dude. Yeah, it was and it was the same guys I was watching on YouTube earlier, and one of the guys said, "Just okay, so you see now how much." He said it shows you if you take away people's eyes, how much they listen more than they see.
Yeah.
And it's dang, because one guy said he's like, oh no, man, I like him because talking about the white guy. He's like, no, he just he got my lingo, it's I feel like I could say something to him and he get it off rip, And I was like, exactly. If you take away people's eyes, they don't see color, they see where they're from or demographic or who like-minded people. You know what I mean? Or
right.
Not tribal, almost in a sense of tribalism.
It kind of goes back to their what you identify with.
Mm-hmm.
And identity is a really interesting thing I've been thinking about lately.
That's yeah. God, man, that's what going back to David Goggins, with what he was saying, what you said to me earlier, your mind is not yourself, and how many, David Goggins, what he said on the podcast while I was watching earlier, he said none of this is me. He said, who am I really? He said, and it's all of a sudden, it's for him, it was a bunch of things that just, came down. It's like, you need to do this, that. He said, I don't want to be like Michael Jordan. I don't want to be like Jim Brown, who both share a birthday with both of them. I'm like, damn. I'm like, Michael Jordan and Jim Brown got the same birthday. You know what Jim Brown is?
I'm not a big sports guy.
He was the first. Let me make sure. I believe he was the first African American drafted to play in the NFL. Jim Brown. I don't know if it was the first, but he's a civil rights activist too, along with it.
What was their birthday?
February 17th.
February 17th.
He played for the Cleveland Browns, and he wasn't. So, have you seen the movie The Express?
Mm-mm.
It's a movie about a story about Ernie Davis. So Jim Brown was a Syracuse running back, and the first African American running back. I think, if not the first African American running back, got drafted. Went to the Cleveland Browns. He's the biggest thing since sliced bread. He was absolutely a beast.
Huge.
Ernie Davis comes to Syracuse. Second black running back at Syracuse. First black man to win a Heisman Trophy. And that's the movie The Express. I think Ernie Davis died 2 years into his NFL career from cancer.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, make sure I'm not bullshitting on that one. Hold on. If I'm not mistaken. Ernie Davis, yeah. Yes. He died in 1963. Yes. So, yeah, he was the first one. The Elmira Express, because he's from Elmira. I need to bring up. I'm going to learn how to. Yeah, so, yeah. In 1961, Ernie Davis became the first black man to win the Heisman. And then, yeah, in 1963, he passed away. I don't know if I think it was cancer. Don't know, but I just know he was sick. But and he was talking about how he said, I don't want to be like, but yeah, for sake of what I was talking about, he said, I don't want to be like Michael Jordan. I don't want to be like Jim Brown. He said, and we all know who Michael Jordan is. And he said, who am I? And he said, like, a list of just things he needed to do, of who he really is and needed to be, just almost like downloaded into him, And he said it was nothing that he thought was going to be. He said, but it was ugly. He said, but you have to, if you really want the best, or in his mind, what his best is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And his is always a keep going, like hard work mindset. Obviously he's a Navy SEAL, so he was went completely just
took it to the extreme.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And again, like, I'm no David Goggins. You know what I mean? There is part of me in me that resonates with that, though.
Right.
That, like, just do it. Just do it and get it. For what?
Shoot for it.
Because.
Because.
Like,
Just because. And that's a big thing with, like, there's that famous Descartes quote, I think, therefore I am. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the books that I mentioned earlier, The Power of Now, challenges that and says, it's just I am. Like, it's just now. Mm-hmm. And we are. And to me, that was kind of liberating to realize that, like, the fact that I am is justification enough for me to be here and for me to live my life. Like, to do it. To reach for it. And I mean, a lot of people thought I was insane for having a baby. But it's what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Like when confronted with that, that's what we chose because we wanted it. And that's not to say that everybody should have kids. It's just to say that, like, you can intellectualize as much as you want, right? But, like, a lot of the times you just gotta feel it. Mm-hmm. And, like, if you can feel it, then you're rooted to something. Mm-hmm. And that was a big thing in the book too, is like being, love. Like it can't be thought. It has to be felt. It can only be felt. And so I wonder if that's like, there's things that we know on a subconscious level, you know, and like if you can kind of quiet
The rest.
the rest,
Yeah.
that you can kind of let who you are reveal itself to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to see like what comes next, you know, for all of us. I think that there's a lot of really cool journeys that are taking place all around the world, but even the ones that I get to, you know, be privy to. My own journey, Srimay's journey, Rosemary's journey now, and like your journey, a lot of the people at the shop, the things that seeing them grow, like we were talking about earlier.
Like, so yesterday, I went to my best friend's wedding yesterday. It
That's
wedding
crazy.
reception. You know, so like, yeah, everybody's on a completely different journey from everybody else.
The
Yep.
path is beneath your feet.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the what impedes the path is the path.
What impedes the path is the path. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks a little bit, but
Yeah. Ain't no getting around it either.
Mm-mm.
You see how it took a little second for me?
Well, sorry, I spaced.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Whatever
Yeah.
I thought I just had is gone.
Nah, I think, bro, we've gone for like 2 hours now.
Well, we've been. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, what time is it?
It's almost 4 o'clock.
It's almost 4 o'clock.
Yes.
We want to wrap up here pretty soon.
We can actually wrap it up right now so I can get it broken down and edited.
Um,
And I want to show you that video real quick, if you don't mind. Yeah.
for sure.
Mm.
I like talking to you, Caleb.
This was a great podcast.
You're a really good guy to talk to,
Thank you.
and I like that we both tried to kind of talk about things we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's always a little scary, but like it felt good.
You know, I was thinking today too. I was like, just last thing before we go, but abstract art, you know, and like how I was like, can we talk about the abstract, you know, and people understand, you know, kind of understanding an abstract, and I think part of speaking in abstract is the best part of because people can take it out however, you know,
Yeah,
there's no real one way to take it, you know.
you can have your own interpretation.
Mm-hmm. And I think that when the opinions come, it's cycling through again, like discernment through like people are gonna say whatever about this podcast. You know what I'm saying? And just knowing again what impedes the path is the path.
It's the path.
I like that. I'm gonna keep that one. What impedes the path? Who said that one?
I actually don't remember. I think that one might have been the Tao Te Ching.
The Tao. I've looked into the Tao. Jack and I talked about the Tao and the Tao.
I had a copy. I have a copy actually. And I used to flip through it. I think that's where I saw that one. I might have seen it online somewhere though.
What impedes the path is the path. Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action.
Yep. Another good one that I actually got from Eric Lazinski, our payroll guy.
Mm.
He said, always remember you get more with sugar than you do with salt. And that one's going to stick with me too for a while. Because he was talking in the moment about, you know, just like being a leader in general. But like, nobody responds well to being yelled at, belittled, disrespected, you know, aggression. Nobody responds well to that. You always get more with sugar than you do with salt.
I'll take that one. I'll put that one in the back pocket. We'll ponder that one. But y'all ponder that one too. And put anything else in the comments for us to ponder about. Anything with life, philosophy, your own perspective about how life works, or just your own experiences on life. Let us know. We can talk about it. And like I said, just the abstract.
The abstract.
You know?
We all got some questions.
I think you said the title. You said the title of this podcast earlier while we were talking. Because at first it was the topics that I had in mind. But I think you said it earlier. You said, we aren't kids anymore.
We aren't kids anymore.
I was like, right when you said that, I was like, that's the title of the podcast. I was like, I was like, yep, that's it.
And I hope you know that you're a good man, Caleb.
You too.
Thanks, man.
You too. And you're going to be a great father. You already are.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. This has been the Caleb Jackson Podcast. This has been Mr. Spikes, Mr. Damio.
Bye, guys.
All right. Till next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, like I said. And this has been a very chill podcast, too. We've been low voicing the whole time. Yeah. All right. Hopefully, y'all don't fall asleep watching this podcast. But again, leave a comment and let us know what you think. But until next time, peace.